Hello, my name is Jonathan Carr, and the case that I decided to research for this project was the case of Gabriel Fernandez. So, Gabriel Fernandez was an 8-year-old boy from Palmdale, California, who sadly died on May 24th, 2013, due to months of abuse and torture. Gabriel lived with his mother, Pearl Fernandez, and her boyfriend, Isaro Aguirre. And Gabriel was a normal kid who always seemed happy. His teachers often described him as a kind child who enjoyed attending school. Before living with his mother and her boyfriend, Gabriel originally lived with his uncle and his partner, but then moved in with his grandparents because they did not like the idea of him living with a same sex couple. So, what happened to Gabriel was incredibly sad, and there's a great documentary on Netflix that's quite heartbreaking. But Gabriel was beaten and abused by his mother, Pearl, and his mother's boyfriend, Isaro. The abuse started when he moved in and lasted about 8 months until he was sadly beaten to death. Um, During Gabriel's autopsy, they found cigarette burn marks, BBs lodged in his skin, muscle abrasions on his wrists and ankles from being tied up, and much more. One of his teachers reported that he asked her if it was okay to be beaten with a belt buckle, as well as be shot with a BB gun by his mother. Um, Many of the first responders and nurses made statements saying that Gabriel's case was by far the worst that they've ever seen. Gabriel was also forced to eat kitty litter as well as expired food, which led to his severe malnutrition. On May 22nd, 2013, Pearl Fernandez called 911 because her son had stopped breathing, and she claimed that he had fallen in the shower, when in reality, Pearl and her boyfriend had beaten him so badly that he stopped breathing. On May 24th, 2013, Gabriel was pronounced brain dead and was taken off life support. So, one of the more peculiar parts and more interesting aspects of Gabriel's case was the fact that four social workers, Stephanie Rodriguez, Patricia Clement, Kevin Baum, and Gregory Merritt, were each charged with one felony count of child abuse and one felony count of falsifying public records. So these four social workers were the ones that were primarily involved with Gabriel, and many say that they played a huge role in the death of Gabriel, unfortunately. Gabriel's teachers tried reporting the abuse many times. Like I said in the previous slide, one of his teachers reported that Gabriel would come into class and ask if it was okay for his mother to hit him or if it was okay for his mother to shoot him with a BB gun. And she reported this numerous times, but very rarely would she hear back, and very rarely would welfare checks be made on Gabriel's home life. And it's pretty evidently clear that these social workers played a rather large piece leading to Gabriel's death. Um, Preventative measures should have been taken at a much earlier stage, but they simply were not. If the social workers were more proactive in actually making checks on Gabriel's welfare and whatnot, and truly looking into the case, he would most likely still be alive today. So you may ask what charges each person got involving this case, and I guess the best place to start is with Gabriel's mother, Pearl. And so Pearl was charged with first-degree murder with special circumstances of torture. She was eventually sentenced to life in prison. So Pearl decided to take a plea deal, and this required her to plead guilty to the death of her son. And doing so prevented her from the possibility of the death penalty, meaning the highest penalty she could receive is life imprisonment without the chance of parole. Pearl's boyfriend, Isaro, however, he was charged with first degree murder with special circumstances as well. However, he was sentenced to the death penalty, and he's currently sitting on death row. The four social workers were each charged with one felony count of child abuse and one felony count of falsifying public records, which I mentioned in the previous slide. However, all of these charges were dropped in January of 2020. The state appeals court did not believe that they had enough evidence to prove the charges beyond a reasonable doubt, and essentially stated that they feel that they worked in. Um, Accidents do happen, things slip through, and that they could not be held accountable for the abuse that Gabriel received. However, all four of them were fired from their positions. So, what happened after this case? Well, so Gabriel's death really caused people to open their eyes to the situation at hand. This caused for a re engineering of the Child Protective Services system and how they handle the cases. The Los Angeles County Department of Child and Family Services almost immediately launched a new era of reform on the system that they had. This involved hiring over 3,500 new workers, improving training, as well as placing a CPS agent in 14 different schools across the county. Doing this increased the chances of a case being reported and preventing the situation from worsening, like Gabriel's case did. The Los Angeles Sheriff Department made a statement saying that deputies were internally disciplined, but refused to give any other statement or to make any clarifications. So these are the resources that I used for my research, and I would like to thank you for listening to the research that I did, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.